Trump saw the danger at home and issued a devastating warning, while the press tried to reduce everything to just another harsh statement against him. On May 25th, 2026, the President of the United States finds himself at the center of a crisis that combines internal security and international pressure. On Saturday, a 21-year-old man identified as Nazir Best opened fire near a Secret Service checkpoint close to 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington. While Trump was inside the White House, the suspect was killed, a pedestrian was injured, and no agents were hit. There was an actual shooting near the most heavily protected building in America. The Department of Justice also used this episode to ask the courts to approve the White House Security Reinforcement Project, citing the urgency of better protecting the presidential complex. At the same time, Trump said that he is in no hurry to make a weak deal with Iran and that the American blockade will continue until there is a certified agreement. Because diplomacy only works when the enemy knows that force is still on the table. What did Trump see before the media admitted it? Why do they want to turn the warning into a scandal and hide the real risk? How can this warning change the game against Iran? I'll tell you all about it in a moment, but now you'll want to be subscribed to the channel to stay well informed. Real-time information with the best journalistic quality ever seen. The credibility standard, Milson Alves Global. The case began on Saturday, May 23, 2026, near 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington. A 21-year-old man identified as Nazir Best approached a Secret Service checkpoint, took a gun out of a bag, and opened fire on agents. The agents responded. The suspect died, a pedestrian was injured, and no Secret Service officer was hit. Trump was at the White House at that moment and was not injured. The White House went into temporary lockdown. Reporters and staff had to take cover, and the episode showed that the president's security was once again tested in the most sensitive place in American politics. Before the political response, a major security breach occurred when the suspect approached the presidential perimeter, prompting an immediate Secret Service reaction. The news also reported that Best was already known to the Secret Service from previous incidents near the White House. This gives the case a different weight, because we're not talking about a common scare on just any street. We're talking about repeated threats to the structure that protects the President of the United States. Trump responded by looking at security, structure, and deterrence. After the attack, he once again defended the construction of a secure room in the White House complex, a project that is facing a legal battle. The Department of Justice also asked the court to overturn an injunction against the construction, citing the shooting as proof that security needs to be strengthened. The press tries to portray the project as vanity, but the government uses the case to say that presidential security is not just for show. When an attack happens near the place where the president works, the discussion makes it clear who wants to strengthen protection and who prefers to keep treating the real risk as a debate over appearances. Trump's devastating warning also extended to foreign policy, mainly against Iran. In a post on Truth Social on May 25, Trump said that negotiations with the Islamic Republic of Iran are progressing, but he set a firm condition: either there will be a great deal for everyone or there will be no deal. He warned that if the regime does not accept a serious solution, things could return to the battlefield, with fighting bigger and stronger than before. This statement became a headline because the media prefers the shock value of words, but the political logic is simple. Trump is saying that diplomacy only works if the enemy understands that the alternative is worse. Marco Rubio indicated that there was a solid foundation on the table to open the strait and move forward with time-bound nuclear talks. Trump, at the same time, warned that he is in no hurry to sign any document just to produce a nice photo. The message is that the American blockade will continue until the agreement is signed, certified, and respected. The difference between Trump and the old political establishment appears exactly at this point. Washington's old playbook accepted long talks, vague promises, diplomatic meetings, and then a new round of Iranian provocation. Trump puts the cost on the table before signing. He doesn't make deals just to save face. He uses American strength as a guarantee that negotiations don't turn into theater. The left calls this a threat. The right-wing base understands it as a warning. Peace without strength becomes an invitation to blackmail, and an agreement without consequences becomes a reward for a regime that only respects pressure. The warning also exposes the isolation of those who try to portray Trump as reckless. In the Middle East, even regional allies and adversaries know that a weak deal with Iran can become a problem for Israel, for the Gulf monarchies, for energy trade, and for the security of maritime routes. Yair Lapid himself, the leader of the Israeli opposition, criticized the possibility of a bad deal and said that it would be negative for Israel, for the region, and for the Iranians themselves. Even coming from a political wing far from Trump, the criticism reveals that the fear of a weak concession to Iran is not an invention of a conservative commentator or parliamentarian. Trump tries to expand the playing field with the Abraham Accords. He wants more nations in the Middle East to recognize Israel and join a regional architecture of new politics and containment of extremism. The movement is against violence. In 2020, when Israel normalized relations with nations like the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain during the Trump administration. Now Trump is pushing for other nations such as Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, and Jordan to be pushed toward normalization. The message is clear. If Iran wants to come out of isolation, it needs to stop acting as a center of instability and accept a region where Israel will not be wiped off the map. The historical fact helps to understand the move. In 2020, many people considered the Abraham Accords impossible, propaganda, or just a symbolic gesture. Reality showed that Trump managed to break through an old diplomatic barrier and get Arab nations to sign normalization agreements with Israel without waiting for a final solution to all the region's conflicts. That was the hallmark of Trump's method. Cutting through the stalling, adding incentives, applying pressure, and forcing leaders to choose between economic progress or political isolation. Now he's trying to apply the same logic at a time when Iran is looking for a way out of a crisis that Iran itself helped ignite. The comparison with other nations reinforces the contrast. Israel operates with the idea of immediate survival because it knows that a nuclear Iran changes the military balance in the region. Gulf nations focus on oil, ports, investment, and internal security. Turkey tries to preserve its own influence. Egypt and Jordan are concerned about stability at their borders and the impact of a prolonged war. Trump looks at all these interests and tries to forge a broader pact without giving Iran the prize of appearing as a victim. Inside the United States, the shooting near the White House and the talk about Iran meet at the same political point: security. The president's security, the country's security, the security of its allies, and the security of America's position in the world. The Secret Service had to react in Washington, and the Department of Justice used the case to advocate for increased physical security at the White House. Trump used the negotiations with Tehran to warn that an agreement without strength won't work. These facts go hand in hand because they show a presidency surrounded by different threats. But responding with the same logic, detecting the risk before it turns into a disaster. And now, while the press tries to attack the tone, the White House is working to show that the problem isn't Trump speaking tough, the problem is that the world has gone back to testing how far the United States will allow itself to be pushed. I'm Milson Alves, global internationalist, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the truth every day. The news links are in the video description. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end, check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves global community.